Hello, welcome to the live discussion of the slot 2 paper of today's CAT. Now, you must have felt that this was many of the reactions were bordering on being easy. Many, I know it's surprising, but many of the discussions also center on the fact that this is a more difficult paper and so on and so forth. But one thing you have to realize is that these are all subjective terms, and it's not easy to just go by the reaction of a few students to calibrate and say whether the section was easy, moderate, or difficult. Here, we'll do a deep dive into one of the sections of CAT today to see how the section was. We are going to take a look at the CAT quant section and see how it was today. While the CAT quant section in slot 2 was on the lines of the paper last year, it was on the lines of what was in slot 1. However, there are perceptible changes in terms of the difficulty level and in terms of a few areas being underrepresented or being completely absent. Let's start by taking a look at the number of questions. The number of questions, as you all know, no big surprise, we all know that it's around 22 questions, and the number of non-MCQ questions in the afternoon slot were about 6. The breakup of the questions was on expected lines. We have 8 questions from the arithmetic area, 8 questions from algebra, and the small change here are the 3 questions in geometry and the 3 questions that came from the numbers area. Those who fancy their chances in geometry, those who have prepared well and worked hard in the numbers area, fancy their chances there, might have looked at this weightage and found that their areas, their strong areas are represented. On the flip side, many of you who are not good at these areas might have ruled the fact that a slightly larger number of questions would have come from these 2 areas. However, when you look at the balance of the paper in terms of the number of questions, we do find that the arithmetic area, which is what a lot of students look forward to in terms of scoring marks, that seems to be, at least in terms of numbers, it is having a good representation. We've got 8 questions in arithmetic. Now let's look at the area-wise distribution, the topic-wise distribution of the questions. Here we see that from the equations area, we have 1 question. AMA, we have got 2, geometry 3, numbers 3, time and work 1 question. We've got time and distance as well, a question from time and distance as well. SICI, a very good question, an easy question, or some would say a moderately easy question had come. This would have increased their scoring chances. Here 1 from SICI. Then we have a couple of questions from logs. Indices surge, we have 1 question. Functions and graphs, a couple of questions on inequalities. The area that was missing in the afternoon slot, you will see here in the entire chart, you don't see any questions on probability. You do not see any questions on permutations and combinations. And these are the 2 areas, significant areas, which did not make a mark in the session, in the paper, in the afternoon slot. When one looks at some of these questions and looks at some of the areas, the broad feeling is that there would be enough scoring opportunities. And the truth is there were significant scoring opportunities in this paper. However, for that, one would have to weed out the easy questions, start looking for those easy questions. Once you identify the easy questions, spend a little bit of time understanding the question and trying to solve it. As usual, we see that there is a higher emphasis on arithmetic, which is expected. We are seeing this for a good number of years now. The topics that did not make an appearance in the paper were questions on graphs, Venn diagrams, number systems, trigonometry, probability, P and C. As I said, this is the crux of the slot 2 paper when it comes to the quant section. The easy questions need to be identified carefully. However, identifying the easy question was not par for the course. One had to be very careful because there were some traps laid out even in the easy questions. And that's one point where CAT in the slot 2 quant section, this is how it was different from the other slot of this day and also different from the arithmetic of previous years. You find that there were slight traps, but however, if you identify that trap and you understand what was happening there, reading the lines carefully, you would have identified that trap and you would be easily in a position to score marks in those questions. Some questions were based on formulas but needed a deeper understanding and application of concepts, and in this it's no different from any year of CAT. We would rate the quant section to be slightly a tad more difficult than last year and on par with what we have seen on the morning slot, maybe a little more difficult than the morning slot. However, this is an exercise. We'll keep refining our findings as we look at the original question, the actual questions, as we get more feedback from the field. But as of now, it appears to be slightly lengthier just because there were traps laid out in the easy questions as well. We would like all of you all to subscribe to the Time for CAT YouTube channel. Ensure that you come there. We've got a host of activities planned throughout the day. You already can see that the percentile estimator is out. First cut analysis is there. The detailed analysis will shortly follow. And the 3 at the bottom that you see will follow shortly once the answer sheets are released by the IIMs. We'll then discuss the remaining sections one by one. Thank you. Any minutes వచ్చింది?